Hello. The title of my video today is Capitalism Sucks, Why Canada Has the Highest Cell Phone Rates in the World. So if you're not Canadian like me, you may not realize that here in Canada, we have among the very highest cell phone rates in the world, I think the very highest. And the reason for that is that we basically have a monopoly here between three corporations in Canada that are Canadian corporations because we don't allow competition and we don't have proper price regulations. And so these three companies, they say that also we're a large country geographically, and they say there's not enough towers, so it's very expensive to operate the network. And so for these reasons, we have these insanely high cell phone rates. And I think it's ridiculous and completely unnecessary, and it's kind of an example of when you take the worst aspects of capitalism and socialism and you put them together, this is the kind of crap you end up with. And for most people who are trained to think like a certain way, they just assume that the solution to this problem would be more competition, and I don't see why we have to go there. We could literally just regulate these corporations, in my opinion, and make it so that for basic services they can't charge more than a reasonable amount. We could do that. I have friends, here in Toronto, we're experiencing the consequences and effects of neoliberalism and late stage capitalism, whatever you want to call it. Basically, where the capitalists work with the government and just exploit cheap labor however they can. So about 20% of our private workforce now is made up of temporary foreign workers and immigrant workers in some capacity that are basically have been allowed to come here so that people can exploit them for cheaper than they would pay a local guy like me. And that's like 20% already. So this whole system is ridiculous in my opinion and exploitative. But I was talking to somebody that I met that I became friends with that had recently come here about a year ago from Kerala, which is a state in southern India that is run by the Marxist Party. They have it's one of the most developed parts of India, high literacy rate. Things are more day-to-day life is more affordable there. And talking to my friend, they asked me, everything here is extremely expensive. Your rent is super expensive. Your groceries are super expensive. Your cell phone rates are insanely expensive. And they're just observing our society, and they notice like people like me, like even people with degrees and everything, we have a really hard time getting ahead because we work all the time, but just the cost of the basic things like your cell phone plan, your groceries, and your rent and stuff are so high that you barely have any profit at the end. So my friend was asking me, like, Alex, why is your capitalist culture set up this way? Like, why do you not regulate these cell phone companies? And I don't have a way to explain to them why this is this way other than basically lack of knowledge and will from the public and greed from these corporations, because I don't think that we need to bring in American corporations or even have more competition necessarily. Like I said, if we wanted to, as a country, we could vote and make our government regulate these corporations so that for the necessary basic services, you can't charge more than a certain amount. I'm an anti-capitalist, and I'm not an ideologue in any specific way. I don't call myself like a Marxist or a socialist or anything, but I definitely lean to the left economically. And I would say that I support regulating prices for groceries, for certain places to live for people, and for cell phone things. I think that for basic necessities, there should be a limit on what a company can charge. And I know that violates this idea of the free market, that like the free market is God and we all exist to serve it, and it will always have this invisible hand that takes care of us. But I think that's all nonsense, and we are the people. Markets exist for us. Since we've already set up Canadian society the way it is, and there's only three Canadian companies that have a monopoly on all this stuff, they're not going to leave. They're not going to threaten to hold our economy hostage by leaving if we regulate them. We made them. They're Canadian companies. They have a monopoly. They're not going to walk away from that. All we have to do is, mandate it so that they can't charge more than a certain price for basic text and calls or whatever, you work out the services. But the stuff that the people at the very bottom living in relative poverty have, or even absolute poverty, when they have making minimum wage, can't really operate in the society without a cell phone. So I would say, if I was running the show or in a party where we were collectively running things, I would advocate that we regulate it so that the necessities can't cost more than a basic amount. $50 a month for a basic cell phone plan is more than reasonable in this city with the minimum wage what it is. And like I said, this is all the consequences of late stage capitalism. And so 20% of our workforce private workforce being made up of temporary foreign workers and stuff. It's all just a scam for cheap exploitation so that they don't have to pay locals like me a fair amount, or there's so many reasons why a private company would rather deal with a temporary foreign worker. They're not going to complain. You can lowball them, rip them off. I've seen the whole thing is skeezy. I don't think we should be like, this is why I hate capitalism, right? Even our government, which is make no mistake, we have a socialistic aspect to our government, especially relative to the United States, but this is still firmly a capitalist paradigm, and our government always are looking for ways to make money, and working with the private and public sector are kind of like intertwined here in a weird way. So the whole thing is always just about getting more money for skyrocketing pensions for the private sector so they can do their thing, while working with the private sector to exploit immigrants that actually, contrary to popular belief, these temporary foreign workers and these students and stuff, these people that come here, they all come here to make currency in Canadian dollars so they can send it back home, but they're also paying taxes, and they're a net asset for our government, right? So this is all of this stuff around us. Life is just getting way more difficult for working class people. It's because we have a capitalist system that's extremely corrupt, and the cell phone oligarchy issue is like the ultimate illustration of this. It's just based on pure greed. There's no way that I believe that that our rates are that high because they can't charge less with the operating costs. I think it's just pure corporate greed, and they're gouging the people, Canadians, because they can, because we let them. It's bizarre to me. We need to stop. Like the conservatives even if that were true, we could subsidize. I'd rather pay $1 more on my taxes every month and then pay $50 a month for a cell phone plan than $100, because if more towers are the issue, then our government can subsidize and make them at these companies and give them more towers. We'll even use we'll pay taxes collectively, and then we'll all save money significantly when our cell phone bill comes way down, right? So even if you look at this from like a greedy libertarian perspective, where it's all about you and your money in your wallet, this should still, your bottom line, you should still be saving or making money by paying a little bit of taxes to get these cell phone rates way down, if that's the actual problem, right? But then again, I don't think we need more taxes or competition or anything. I think we just simply need to regulate these corporations so that they can't charge more than a basic amount for basic services. So that's my explanation for those of you who don't know why Canada has these insanely high cell phone rates. And remember, this isn't socialism's fault. Canada is still a capitalist country. Our government is still a capitalist government. But it is socialistic in some ways, and this is the worst combination of creating a market and trying to have protectionism by not allowing competition, but then also allowing the small market to monopolize and gouge everyone, and then not regulating it. So the whole thing is ridiculous to me. If there's something that you'd like to add to what I said, please let me know in the comments. And if you disagree with me, let me know for sure, because I'd love to know why. And otherwise, hope you enjoyed this video. See you guys in the next one.